Our last block that we're going to put into our quilt this year is a woven block. I've done a different colour for each of my strips going through and a different one for the corners. You could cut down the colours. I may yet play around with that as I'm sat here looking at it. So for these woven strips you're going to need one piece 6.5 by 3.5 and one square 3.5 inch square. So you're going to have 4 lots of the longer squares and the 4 lots of the squares to finish it off. And then you want 4 3.5 inch squares for the corners. So have a where you're going to work up your colours, that's what we're looking for. It's not a difficult block to do, we're just because there's quite a few pieces in it, that's what's going to take the time. So what we're going to do first, we're going to join these smaller squares first into pairs, and then we're going to join those with the 6.5 inch strip. We'll end up with 4 blocks. Once we do that, we can join 2 blocks together, and then we'll join those pairs of blocks to complete our square. And then of course we'll just press it and trim up to make sure it's 12.5 inches. So look forward to seeing what your colours are. So I have my blocks laid out on the table next to me, and I'm just going to start by joining the squares together. So if I leave them laid out beside me, it just means that I can keep the layout as I want it. So we're going to be using, as always, a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Right, just find another pair. The next pair. So I'm just chain piecing these together. So once they're all joined up here, what I'm going to do is separate them off. I'm going to press them and then get them back laid out so that I can join them to the larger rectangles. So I've pressed my pieces so that the fabric is to the seam is pressed to the dark side. I've laid them back out so that I know I've still got that woven pattern, and as a check, just make sure that your corner pieces are all the same colour and they're the colour that you expect them to be. So I've had a play around with my blocks and I've redone them, so I've now got the light cream in the corners. So I've checked that all the colours are as if they're woven through, and all my corner blocks are cream. So then you join in a rectangle with 2 squares, lay that over, centre that on there, your 1/4 inch seam allowance. Sew all those pieces together. So you end up with 4 blocks. One more to go. And again, take them all off, separate them, and I'm going to press them open and lay them out again in the correct order. So I've pressed my blocks so that the seam is towards the longer piece. Just to be aware, I got caught out. This is why you make sure you're picking them up as they're laying down. I joined my pair to the wrong side of my rectangle, and of course the pattern wouldn't fit. So I've rectified that. So now we're going to be joining 2 blocks together, so the top ones and the bottom ones. Make sure that when you join them that you're joining them to the right side. So again, I'm just laying it out so that they're next to each other and just folding it over so that I'm going to be sewing the right seam up. So just line that up. Right, and again we're going to be using, as we've done throughout, a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to stitch my 2 blocks together. Right, that's that. And then I'm going to press them, and then I shall join the 2 rows. So I'm just going to press those, use a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm just going to make sure that the seam's still lined up. Just make sure that the seam's laying down flat. Go. So I'll give it its final press. So final press, and then we're just going to trim it to size. Make sure it's 12.5 inches. So it'll be 6 1/4 down the centre. Just line my lines up. There we go. going to trim across there and across the top. Rotate it round, line that side up on the bottom, and then final trim, and there we have our block 12. Just, like that. Before you move your ruler, just make sure that it's trimmed all the way through. So a new blade is needed. So there's our woven block, and if everything works out correctly, you should have your 4 corners all the same colour. So we've got under and up, under and up, under and up, under and up. So we've got our woven block there.